Hi, this is Robert with Cruzbike, and today we're going to install a rear rack on a Cruzbike T50. The rack for the T50 comes with 2 clamps for the upper stays with bolts, 2 bolts and 2 nylock nuts and spacers for the lower stays. The lower bar is for your panniers, the top bar is for a trunk bag. One quick thing to note on the T50 is the lower holes. Depending on your T50, it could be a 6mm hole or a 5mm hole. The bolts will fit in either hole, and you will simply need to use the nylock nuts to capture the other side if the hole is an unthreaded 6mm size. And here in the install we'll go over that, as these holes on this particular bike are for the 6mm size. The parts we'll need for the lower install are the 2 spacers and the long bolts and the nylock nuts. The spacers take up the distance between the wider bottom of the rear rack and the narrower end of the rear of the Cruzbike frame. So most rear racks are designed for regular width rear end upright bikes, but the Cruzbike back end is a 100mm hub. So the spacers will help take up that distance. All right, we have our T50 here. I'm going to do the install with the wheel on. You can certainly do the install with the wheel off as well. The rack comes all pre-assembled. We use a 5mm Allen to loosen the upper struts. They pretty much will stay in the stock configuration. They are long on purpose. That's the way they come, as it's kind of a universal rack. It's not necessary to cut the struts, as you'll see later, but you can certainly cut them to the specific length once your rack is installed and level if you so desire. Anyway, I like to just set the rear rack on the floor here and then use the spacer and long bolt to just go right through the rack on one side, and we're just going to get it temporarily in there for now. Now, because the hole on my particular T50 is a larger non-threaded hole, the bolt goes right in really easily, and then we can repeat for the other side. Now we use our 4mm Allen to just get this bolt all the way through that hole, and then we're going to capture the other side with the M5 nylock nut. Now I like to just get everything attached but not quite snug yet. Now on the drive side, it's a nice tight fit in here between the rotor and the rotor bolts and where this nylock nut needs to go. So you can simply hold the nut with a needle nose pliers or in the end of an open end wrench, and then it'll just thread into that nut once the end of the bolt comes through the hole. This is where you can also do this with the wheel off of the bike, which of course makes it easier to access that other nylock nut. Once we have those temporarily all nice and attached, our lower section is done and we're ready to attach the upper struts. Now the clamps go on the upper part of the seat struts. Depending on your seat angle and also depending on whether your struts are mounted on the forward holes or the rear holes of the frame, you want to try to get the rack in a position where it's as level as possible. Again, that'll depend on your seat angle setup and how your seat struts are mounted to the seat and to the frame. So here I'm going to have a short set of struts, and once we kind of estimate where our upper strut's going to go, we're going to put our clamps on the upper stays. with the spacers to the inside. They're already pre-threaded. So once we have those in place, we can simply attach our upper struts to the clamps. Once we have our upper strut attached to the seat, then we can level our rack, and once we're happy with the position, I like to snug down the one side. Everything's nice and level the way we like it. And then once we've done that, we can install the other side and tighten everything down nice and secure. Once all of our upper bolts on the rack and the clamps are nice and tight, then we can make sure we go back and finish tightening up the lower bolts and nuts to the lower part of the frame. And once we're done with that, our rack is completely installed and you are off and ready to ride. Alright, your rack is installed, ready for panniers and a trunk bag. Remember, the panniers go on the lower bars, and as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at support@cruzbike.com. Thank you so much.